3,
I'll
2,
never
1,
get that
go.
time back.
Welcome to episode 160 of Another Woodshop podcast, the only podcast broadcast openly on all CB radios in the area, despite numerous cease and desist letters. I am Peter, and with me, as always, is Daniel Dunlap. And why are they all playing? They just are playing. And you guys wouldn't have to hear me read my name and Dan's name if we had an intro. You may have noticed there wasn't really a lot of audio in there, just music. Or any speaking in there. We are currently looking for someone to do our opening intro. We have some good contenders. But before we get to that, Dan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm having a hard time breathing currently. I don't know what. I think I huffed a mosquito or something.
Yeah.
You ever done that?
I'm all the time. And yeah, I got a little frazzled because my audio started all playing all at once.
We'll get this down sooner or later.
We'll get this down, but we have some great contenders. But before we get to that, I'm going to stall now as Dan pulls up the list of patrons.
Yes, I need to do that.
We'll figure this out, guys, eventually. But if you are confused about what we're talking about as far as the intro goes, Mike usually would read the little intro. Hello and welcome to Another Woodshop podcast. All of our names, our socials, and then we'd get into my intro. Now we don't have anyone doing that because Mike's not on there. So last week we just bleeped it, I think, or did crickets. Nice one, Dan. Like that.
Yeah, I like that. I liked it.
And we had some people call in, and we're gonna play those in a little bit. Malcolm and Patrick called in, but if you have a velvety voice and if you want to be part of AWP history forever, despite better reason, you can call in and send us that audio, or don't call in, record it and then just email it to us to anotherwoodshoppodcast@gmail.com. Now I'm done stalling, Dan.
Yes, I'm ready. We got 2 newcomers. I think we missed 1 newcomer last week. That's my fault. I'm still huffing and puffing trying to get the mosquito out of my throat. So I apologize there. We have 2 newcomers. One I missed last week, but we did mention his name at the top because he is a VIP patron. That is Matthew Hoff. And nice. Another new VIP patron is Victor Aragema. I'm sorry if I butchered that, Victor. I apologize, but he's also a VIP patron.
Thank you, guys. And what about the rest of our top tiers?
Well,
all our wonderful beeps.
Well, let me.
Should I keep stalling?
Nope. I'm getting this down. What is going on here? Nope. We might need to stall some more.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for those top tier patrons that just joined us. So Dan's going to read off the rest of them. And once again, we're going to remind everyone that we're shooting for monthly Zoom calls where we're all just going to basically do a happy hour and hang out, have a couple drinks, BS, chat, get to know each other. And we're going to aim for monthly. At the very bare minimum, we're going to be doing them quarterly. So if you want to be a part of that, that'll be for our top 2 tiers of patrons. And then occasionally we'll do a fully open call as well, or we'll do some kind of live or something. So
absolutely. Dan. And did you mention, because I was messing with Patreon, did you mention that we have a poll currently up right now?
Yes.
Asking which day would work best for you.
Yeah. We're trying to figure out if it's going to be Friday night, Saturday night, or Sunday night, or Tuesday at 2:30.
All right. Our current VIP patrons are as follows. Victor Aragema. Again, I apologize if I butchered that, Victor. Matthew Hoff, Nick Brim Woodworking. Welcome back, Nick. Matt Maynard from Patriotic Pines. Steve Iadarola. Phil Plant, lead singer of Led Zeppelin. Daniel Bryson. Bill Burkle. Malcolm at Bossa Nova Woodworks. Justin Calvary Customs. Christian Tongue. Square Splinter, Michael Flickinger, Scotty Holland, Mike Lydon, Max and Mindy Coons, Alexander Copajohns, and Jacob Miller is back with the VIP.
Wow.
What do we call them? The admirals in the Met Army?
The 5-star
Oh, you're changing it up on me. You son
Well,
of a
yeah.
bee.
Well, last week I kept adding stars.
How many
So
stars can they have?
I think we ended up with 5-star admirals of
Okay.
the AWP Army
Meh.
naval fleet.
Naval fleet now.
Yeah.
Cool.
The USS
Our naval fleet
AWP.
comprised of like John Deere boats and
John
rickety
Deere
old
boats.
shafts, rickety old rafts. I mean, not shafts.
Well, you know what? If John Deere started making boats today, they would already be not like they used to make them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I think they're
always
just
better.
John Deere boats. They're just crappy old aluminum boats that some redneck painted green.
That being said, if anyone's interested from John Deere to sponsor this podcast, we're very open to that, to changing our minds. I mean, I would take a John Deere tractor any day.
I would absolutely. I would
Let's
take a
go.
John Deere.
What
else do they have? Do they have other things other than tractors? I would take a John Deere like lawn sprinkler. Have you ever seen those little tractors that hook up to your hose and they just kind of move with the water pressure? I would take one of those.
No.
You've never seen that?
Is that like a
Is
thing?
that a Nebraska thing?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Oh yeah, the water pressure from the hose like just moves the tractor just enough to get it to move around your yard.
This is a thing I need to look up. Here I am standing there like an idiot watering my own grass like a pleb.
You need to get a John Deere sprinkler.
You know, when I was growing up in Soviet Poland, we didn't even have hoses to water our grass. We had to.
You didn't even have water from
you'd
what
go
I
to the
understand.
sink, you'd fill up your mouth, and you'd run out to the garden and go. And then
You had
just keep doing
what I
laps.
find most important there is like you had running water, like in it from a sink.
I mean,
Didn't you have to like go to the town square well?
don't stop it, man. My friends are gonna judge me. I think I'm rich.
Okay. We don't
Was
want
it
that.
running? I wouldn't say it was running.
You're the Bruce Wayne of Poland. Look at all this money. You got running water.
Okay. I was like, why Bruce Wayne? Because he's rich. That's right.
Yeah, he's a billionaire.
I thought it was because of my underground bunker because of all the bombs.
I thought we weren't supposed to talk about that.
Anyways, well, before we get to what's on our bench, we're gonna listen to some of these new intros, and we want you guys to write in or message the podcast account. Tell us which one is your favorite so far. So we've got 3 entries. One is from, well, actually 4. They're from 2 people, and one's a funny one, and one is an actual entry. So why don't we start with Patrick? I think it's this one right here. So we're going to play this one. This is his very similar to the original intro.
Hello, and welcome to another Woodshop podcast with Daniel Dunlap of Daniel Dunlap Woodworks and Peter Kapar of Petrie's Workshop. You can find them both, as well as the podcast, on Instagram and YouTube.
I love it. Love it. Very much WWE announcer voice, which is funny because that's the second one he called in with.
Hello, and welcome to another Woodshop.
Or maybe don't play the same one twice, dummy. All right, this one, WWE.
Hello, and welcome to another Woodshop podcast with Daniel Dunlap from Daniel Dunlap Woodworks and Peter Kapar from Petrie's Workshop. You can find them both, as well as the podcast, on Instagram and YouTube. Let's get started!
I do like that end though.
It's very nice. That we might have to just work that in somewhere.
Yeah, we could clip that and use that in future like broadcasts.
Oh yeah, they get cast pretty broadly.
Yeah,
We're on CB radio. Did you know that?
yeah, that's what I heard in the beginning.
All right, now we got the one from Malcolm at Bossa Nova Woodworks. This is the real one.
Hello, and welcome to another Woodshop podcast with your hosts, Daniel Dunlap of Daniel Dunlap Woodworks and Peter Kapar of Petrie's Workshop. You can find Dan and Pete, as well as the podcast, on Instagram and YouTube.
That's
Love
like such a like contrasting difference between the one we just heard and Malcolm's like very chill, very relaxed.
Yeah, now
Gross.
he did have a bunch of bloopers to go along with that.
Which
and
I love. Right now I'm on board with
just
the whole-
bloopers.
the whole blooper intro.
So let's listen to that now.
Hello, and welcome to another Woodshop podcast. Why did Mike always say hello and welcome to? That seems a little redundant. Let's try again. Welcome to another Woodshop podcast, a show about nothing. Wait, can't use that. A show about three guys with Welcome to another Woodshop podcast with Daniel Dunlap, the insert king of Sharpie County.
Sure.
That doesn't sound right. With Daniel Dunlap of Daniel Dunlap Woodworks. Really? We have to say his name twice? And Peter Kapar of Petrie's Workshop. Is that plural or possessive? Also, what is a Petrie? Did you know that Pete grew up on the mean streets of Eastern Europe? In Soviet Poland, the wood works you. Did you know that Dan won the 1993 Nebraska Spelling Bee by spelling the word measurement? It's spelled differently than it's pronounced. You can find them both on social media, and Dan in the Mayo aisle of Menards. It's no wonder Mike left this show.
Bravo. That's so good.
I think just playing that whole thing will be the new intro.
Honestly, we
as of right now,
we could get a solid 15 seconds of intro out of that 1 minute of clips. Thank you so much, guys, for calling in. Those are amazing. They made my day. Malcolm sent me that one directly on Instagram, and I was about to go to bed, and I was rolling.
Oh yeah. So as of right now, this is what we have for intros. If you want your voice to be heard, be sure to email us at anotherwoodshoppodcast@gmail.com with your intro.
And keep it to about 15 seconds.
Yeah, with your entry into the intro contest.
And one thing we're talking about in the pre-show, I think, or maybe in between the shows, is that maybe changing it up from find us all on Instagram and YouTube to, I don't know, something else that, obviously, because we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, so maybe all the social media platforms.
All social media platforms, yeah.
All the social media platforms. Yeah.
That'll future-proof it, too, because you never know what's going to, come out of the woodwork.
I'm blowing up on Clapper.
Oh, yeah, Clapper. Jeez.
Well, speaking of Clapper.
What's on my bench? Oh, that's happening.
Yeah, and Dan, since you don't have panic in your voice and you sound completely ready, what's on your bench?
Basically the same thing as last week. It's nothing real exciting. Actually, I kind of wanted to talk about it's not so much burnout, but I don't know. I go through these little spats where I get in a little depressive mode, and I have a hard time pulling myself up off the couch or just getting into the shop. And that's kind of what I've been dealing with this week, which is not good when you're running a business. Orders are stacking up and people are waiting for stuff, and Father's Day's coming up. And I assume that some of these orders are probably Father's Day orders. So I really got to get on my game probably tomorrow, because I haven't done anything this week. And I don't know. I'm not looking for, poor you. It's just something I deal with once in a while. I don't know. You just got to kind of work through it. So long story short, I haven't done a whole lot this week. I did get to spend some time with some old buddies that I haven't seen in a long time. That was fun.
Snoop D-O-double-G? No, he didn't hang out with Snoop Dogg.
I didn't hang out with Snoop Dogg. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it this year.
Wine or champagne?
Snoop Dogg makes a champagne called 19 Crimes. And, speaking of crimes, and that's divisible by 19, 38's a number of 9. Anyway, we were toasting to just the world. So
no politics.
I thought, how fitting that the champagne is called 19 Crimes. So I'll get this.
The champagne's loosely based on Martha Stewart's career.
Actually, it has a whole history or something put on the backside of the label.
But origin story.
Yeah, I'm too drunk to remember. I just saw Snoop Dogg's face.
I think we need a dark origin story for our podcast. It's at the bottom of each podcast, we started in the dark days of the pandemic.
We could. Is that something you could hire out to Cameo? Could you hire that out and get
hiring a Cameo? We have amazing patrons and listeners that love us, and they're famous in our eyes.
I'm telling you right now, I'm kind of liking the idea of hiring somebody off Cameo. Some super obscure, no name you haven't heard since the 80s type of person. Who the hell is? Oh,
I'm telling you, man, the cast of Heavyweights, the 1995 cult classic about a fat camp. Can I even say fat camp? It's 2023. I don't know
No,
if we
I don't
can
think you
call it
can.
that.
I don't think you can.
I think it's like body positivity camp, still camp.
I don't know what you would call it these days. You can't call it fat
Whatever, if
camp.
you guys have never seen Heavyweights, please watch it.
Oh, it's a classic. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a prequel to Dodgeball because
But
Ben
speaking
Stiller's in
of
both of
fat
them.
camp, I mean that's a pretty good summation of my week.
Fat
was-
camp.
I was lazy and just feeling down about myself. So
And he
I didn't do a whole
hides
lot.
snacks inside his tools.
Oh yeah, I hide snacks all over this place. I hope my wife and daughter don't listen to this.
Goes to grab his dado stack. There's like a Snickers bar next to it.
A box of brownies.
Yeah.
Everybody buys brownies by the box, right?
Anyway,
Anyway.
you eat them by the sleeve. Well,
I don't have a whole lot to share. I mean, if you want to grill me with something, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll
let's have
toss
some
it to you.
therapy. Let's talk about
Okay.
your mother.
Yeah.
Okay, no, but the whole burnout thing, dude, I totally feel that some days.
No, I don't necessarily call it burnout. I just go through these stages of like,
Whatever it is, the lack of motivation.
It's
Some
not-
call it burnout. Some call it, like
yeah,
crippling anxiety or like indecision.
it's a little anxiety too.
Paralysis or whatever?
I think it's a little anxiety. I do take anxiety medication. I have since 2018. Not a lot of people know that. I don't talk about it all the time, but I take
Thank
a
you for
daily
sharing.
pill. I take a daily pill, and I take Xanax as necessary, which is probably like once a month. But I think it's a little anxiety.
Yeah, dude, I can really relate to that because there's some days that, especially, I'm one of those people that the more I have to do, the longer my list gets, and the more
Yeah.
daunting to start the list is, the
Yes.
more crippling my
The bigger
it's
the list,
anxiety. Like,
the harder it is to start because you're so overwhelmed you don't know where to start.
yeah, it's so over. Oh man, and I
Yeah.
know we're not the only ones to deal with this because we've all talked about it. I'm actually pretty open about talking about burnout. I haven't done it as much lately, but I used to talk about it all the time on my Instagram, and I had some very good receptive answers from the community, or people kind of like, yeah, me too, or yeah, I'm dealing with stuff too, or some people just like throw a couple of words of support. I was like, oh, I'm like not that bad. It's just like I'm sad about this, or I'm bummed out about this,
Yeah.
or whatever. And like, all the stuff that happened with like Binks a couple months ago, where she was like not feeling well, and like, that's my cat, so I was like all sad and kind of unmotivated because like someone dear in my life, and yeah, it was just a cat, but like not doing well. We don't know
Not to
what.
you. It's not just a cat to you.
Yeah.
It might be just a cat to somebody else, but not
Yeah,
to
it's
you.
a family member. So that's the thing. You never know what somebody's dealing with, and I actually love when people open up a little bit about mental health and all that stuff in our group, because woodworking is one of those things that is always like a manly man thing for men to do, and we're all tough and wood. But like, let's be real. This is something that's open to everyone. Everyone does it, and I don't care if you're a man, woman, whatever. Like, everyone has sad days. Everyone has rough days, and everyone sometimes gets overwhelmed.
What's Jim Jeffrey say? Every now and then, everybody gets a little sad.
Everybody gets a little sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a real thing. And sometimes you could be like, damn, we talked about this like a month ago or something, where you were getting slammed, absolutely slammed with orders.
Yeah.
And it got to the point of just like, I think the way you described it is like, you were just like going through the motions because the same thing every day. And there was so much to do that it just felt like every order was literally the exact same thing. And it just became tedious. It became,
Yeah.
if you've been listening long enough, the stakes, what do they call them? The stakes that you have to cut, like 1,000.
Oh, the survey stakes.
Survey stakes. Yes.
I thought you were like saying, "Oh, the stakes couldn't be higher."
Yeah.
No, the
But,
survey stakes. Oh God, thanks for that
where
reminder.
you have to just do the same thing over and over again, and it does get like that. That's why
But
sometimes.
man,
like,
when you're making that stuff, I mean, it's putting money in your pocket. It's putting a roof over your head. It's paying the bills. So you kind of like gotta do it. But
it's putting mayo on bread, man.
It's putting mayo on bread. Everybody knows how important that is. So you're kind of obligated to do it. But man, is it not? It's not feeding your creative side at all, which is a big thing for me.
The way I would put it is sometimes our hobbies, our careers become jobs for a little bit.
Yeah.
some of you guys are going to be like nodding right now listening to this. Like, it just becomes a job and you just have to get it done. It's not a project you're enjoying or you're just having a rough week, but like, you just got to get it done. It's like, there's a deadline. There's no boss motivating you. It's you, your boss's anxiety.
That's what was great about having Isaiah in my shop. He even though I was the boss, he was still a huge motivator for me. Like, even when I didn't want to be out there, I knew I had to be, and I just forced myself to be out there.
See, and that's actually a really good point, because like, it's not even someone that was like above you that you had to live up to or live up to their expectation or their deadlines or whatever. It's just that working with a peer, it really definitely gets me. Like, I will do 10% more work, if not more, if I have someone else in the shop with me on top of whatever they're doing.
Right.
So if I have someone helping me out, like when Jake would come over and help me with a project, or my neighbor Joe, and like we're getting like 250% of work done because we're both way more motivated than if we were there by ourselves, kind of taking our time, watching some TV, getting distracted or whatever. So it's always nice to have someone there backing you up. That was my whole evil plan about Emma, coming on. It's like, it was, I keep openly saying this, that I need her to be my boss. I need her to tell me what to do. Like, she's getting integrated into everything now. We're working together, and we're getting, anytime we sit down to work together, it might only be for an hour or 2 hours every other day. Right now, it's like she's now almost done completely with teaching, just one more day of teaching. But the thing is, like, those 2 hours, that 1 hour, whatever, we're getting like a week's worth of work done. Something that would take me a week to get done because I keep putting it off because it's tasks that I need help with, or I just need to get motivated with, or whatever. It's really nice to have someone there backing you up.
Yes,
that's why it's good to have a support system. So if you see someone struggling with a project or whatever, like, just give them a kick in the butt, or hold them accountable, or motivate them, or talk to them, because like, we could all use that little motivation sometimes, because this stuff gets tedious occasionally.
And then the other thing I'm kind of dealing with right now is I'm like 99% done with this farmhouse table. Right, and I realize previous host probably would have knocked it out in 2 or 3 days, but I'm not the previous host. He's
like not the man he used to be.
I'm not. I'm 99% done with this table, right? I've got the top done. The top is gorgeous. It's going to be amazing. I have to put a leaf in this table. So I'm at the point right now where I have to cut everything down the middle. And for some reason, that has given me a hell of a lot of anxiety, because I put so much time into this table, the top and the base, and the top alone I'm out of pocket on the top alone like $500-600, and dealing with that big oak door that I did a while back, which didn't end well. I ended up having to remake that thing. You remember that? I'm a little gun shy. I'm a little wood shy, as it were, of having to cut this thing in the middle. So I need to just get on the horse and do it. So anyway, woe is me. That was my work, my what's on my bench. Woe is me.
I mean, you were busy all week. You still did stuff. It's just like, there's nothing that like jumped off the page.
Nothing really to brag home about, I guess. Write home about. Brag about. Yeah. Anyway, just standard week. What about you, buddy?
I was like thinking, like, what did I do this week? Because first of all, we're recording on a Wednesday. I guess I'll start with that.
Yes,
we're recording
please.
on a Wednesday because tomorrow, on Thursday, he's
getting his surgery.
I am going into surgery to get all 4 of my wisdom teeth removed, because I waited till it was too late.
I misunderstood your surgery. Okay.
Oh no, the good old addictomy. But I'm getting one of my wisdom teeth. All my teeth are impacted, if you know what that means. Basically, they're growing in sideways, pushing up against the other teeth, and I've been putting off getting them taken out for like a decade now. And one of them apparently within the last couple of months cracked. And actually pulled out a couple pieces while I was in for a cleaning. They're like, you got to get this thing out now. So like, cool, great, this sucks. So tomorrow I'm going in for surgery. I'm going under. Apparently it's going to be like 45 minutes to an hour. And then
they're not just taking out the one, they're taking out all 4, right?
All 4 at once.
I mean, might as well if you're going to go big.
That's what I said. Just get them all out of here. So I got to get that done. So Emma's taking me tomorrow. And
she's going to record every moment, yeah?
She is going to lose her phone.
Oh, come
I'm gonna
on.
change your passcode. But
The world needs to see Loopy Pete.
and if you see Loopy Pete once a week on the pre-show,
I mean,
ah,
loopier.
yeah, or towards the end of a podcast recording when I've maybe hit the beer a little too hard. So aside from that, like I was kind of thinking, like, what did I do this week? I was busy all weekend. Emma had her last or second to last show, but last show at the big studio that she's been with for a very long time. So I went to watch her kids perform, and that was my Sunday. But Saturday, I was actually in Connecticut with KJ Sawdust, Keith Johnson, for like all day. We were doing.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, floating. He was installing these floating shelves in. If anyone follows him, he up and coming account. You should check him out. If you've been following him, he did those like massive walnut desks for a podcast studio and office with those like tambour legs. That's the space we were in. So we were in like the podcast studio that has like this purple padding all over the walls that matches the legs, the tapers that he put on the tambour. So we actually had to pull that off, find studs, get everything. He had these custom brackets done, and it was in a corner, so we needed to like brace off the side as well. And we, for hours, were working. We finally get the first shelf in, perfect level, everything's cut nicely. And I look at my watch, and it's like, oh, it's 12 o'clock. We just got one in. So we literally left there at like 5:30, but they looked gorgeous and flawless. We cut in the foam around it, put it back on the wall, so it just looks like they're just coming out of the wall, and they're rock solid, and they look gorgeous. And he did a great job on it. I got to help him out. That was a fun day, just hanging out. And it was one of those fun experiences of like, wow, we've been like going through this whole thing, which like all these things were going wrong. We kept trying to fix things and working around each other and helping each other out. And 8 hours in, we did not want to kill each other, which is like big. I
That's
literally was
huge.
telling, I jokingly sometimes will be like, wait, am I your Craig? Like Jason Hibbs is
Yeah.
Craig backup guy. I'm like, wait, am I your Craig? So it was kind of nice, like, because Keith and I have been working more and more on little projects. I help him out with stuff. He sometimes comes over and just watches me do nothing. But it's good to know that like I can work with this guy for all day and not want to kill each other. So it's like if we ever work on a project together, we're not going to be down each other's throats, which is nice. So that was my Saturday. Got all that done. Sunday of the show. This week we're just kind of getting a lot of stuff ready with Emma coming on, because I've had her since Monday. Really, she hasn't been teaching. Monday she had a boat showing. That's a long story. Had to show a boat with her dad because we sell boats too now on the site. But today we knocked out a bunch of listings. So we put up 12 new Etsy listings
Wow.
this week, which is awesome. We're on a race to 100, and as soon as we hit 100, I'm going for 200. I'm gonna try to double and just go start throwing up projects up there. Next, we're gonna be focusing on some digital files. So again, it's one of those things where like once you have someone with you, suddenly your list starts getting cleaned up real fast because like you're just knocking stuff out. Unfortunately, I'm getting to that point in my list where every task on there is like Peter in front of a computer designing and working on something that only Peter can do, which kind of sucks. It's like if Kayla was backing you up with a bunch of stuff, administrative, whatever, and then you suddenly got into like all the CNC custom projects you have to do, like she literally can't help you in any way. So I'm kind of getting to that point. And one of our questions, I think from Toma, talks about why this stuff has kind of been put on a back burner. So been working on that. And then and then yesterday my buddy Carmine was here. We ripped out most of the actually all the cabinets out of the Sprinter van that we've been working on, and we started building out new cabinets. We're going to be putting in a new floor, all that, planning out the electrical for the actual cabin. So the fridge went in yesterday, the cabinet for that. We still just need to put faces on that, and then we're going to start going counterclockwise and putting in all the benches and whatnot. So I'm pretty excited. And then something I have in my head, but I still need to like design is I want to turn the bed, because right now it's a futon mattress in there, so it folds up easily. So when he's like hanging out in there, he has to like pull up the back of it and like jam it up against the back door. So he's got like a couch situation. But that's a pain in the butt to do each time. So we're gonna try to do some kind of like sliding, like when you push it back, it'll actually like ride on a rail up and create almost, like basically like a couch and then lock in somehow. So almost like a futon does, where you can like fold it up straight or flat. I don't know, but I got to design some kind of track for it and fit it in there and see if we can get it to actually work out. So I'm excited to try that out. But that's kind of been my week. I guess let's jump into questions.
Yes, please.
Right? Yeah. Wait,
Yeah.
Do we have a jingle for questions? Oh, I don't think I
No, we do not.
All right. Well, first question is from Jake of the Miller Band Boys.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jake from a sweet shop, and calling in because I'm actually starting to build a new assembly table for my shop, and wanted to kind of see what your guys' thoughts were on T-track versus dog holes. I'm not 100% sure which way I want to go. I know both have their their pros and cons, but just wanted to see what your guys' thoughts were. Thanks.
Great question, Dan.
I am a fan of both. As a matter of fact, I'm going to redo my assembly table one of these days, and I'm going to add both T-track and dog holes to my assembly table whenever I get around to doing that, whenever that may be. For a couple of reasons. I feel like they both serve different purposes. I mean, granted, you could probably argue that you could get the same things out of both things, but I feel like with T-track, it can only hold so much before you start putting so much pressure on the T-track, whether like upwards pressure or sideways pressure, before it wants to rip out. As with the dog hole, I feel like it's way more robust and can take a more of a beating than T-track. So I feel like they both have a decent purpose. So I would, if I could, and I will someday, I would do both. My simple little answer there. Pete, what do you think?
I was never a huge fan of T-track, and that's probably mainly because I've used it a lot in the past in jigs where like you're not going into a table, you're going into a jig, something that's getting moved around. So you're hollowing out just a little bit out of like a 3/4 inch sheet, and then what are you left with? Like 1/2 inch. And then you put a screw into that screw's not going to hold that much.
No, I already see the problem on my CNC because I use T-track on my CNC, and over time, you could see where the screws wanting to pull out a little bit, and the T-track is not exactly flat anymore. It's got some waves in it, and when you try to move the clamp thing, the inline clamp, you could feel where it gets caught because the T-track isn't flat anymore. It's got hills and valleys and stuff. So.
Yep. So I totally agree. That's like, I think T-track's amazing. It's really nice to have. It's not for heavy hold. I don't personally find it good for heavy hold downs, but it might just be the type of T-track I've used. I do love it for fences and for little guide rails or whatever. Like it's pretty dang good. But to me, like when I went from doing like framing or whatever to actual woodworking, one of the first benches I learned on was just a old bench that was like slapped together out of pine 4x6s or whatever. That was like hand planed down and just dog holes drilled out. They weren't even spaced out perfectly or whatever. They're just in there, and there's just something about like how solid it feels. Now the thing is, a lot of times people are like a TSO table. What's the Festool table?
MFT.
MFT. I knew it was 3 letters. The MFT table, it's great, but like you can use a lot of dog hole accessories in there, but you can't use something like the hold downs that you have to like you tap on top to like hold down your piece, because you really do need enough meat in the table.
Yeah, that like you need like 4 or 5 inches of
to actually cam
top
on the inside in there. So that's something to consider as well. Now, the last thing is, and this isn't like a big problem one way or the other, but what's underneath that tabletop, Jake? Because if you do dog holes, all your dust is falling straight down. So if you're storing tools or whatever in that table or underneath it, the dust is always just like falling on top of that when it's going in a dog hole. So that's something to consider too for just like cleanliness. Whereas a T-track, it's sitting on top and you vacuum it out and whatnot. So,
but here's the thing: you have a wood shop. There's going to be dust. I mean, if you're always worried about, oh my gosh, where's dust going to get, your worries will never end. Your dust is everywhere in a wood shop. Just something you got to live with.
And honestly, listen, Jake, I know you don't like to do things small. When you do things, you do them once and you do them right. Do both.
That's what I'm saying.
Do dog holes, and then run a track. Honestly, you could throw a sheet on your CNC, cut out all the dog holes on you, and just layer 2 sheets together or something, laminate them. Get a nice, nice set of dog holes, and then just round them out. I think that's the best way to do it. Why not just, why limit yourself to one thing if you can have both? I use dog holes. I'm pretty used to them. But with dog holes, I will say that you want some kind of vise on the side of your table that has a pin that pops up, so you can actually clamp things up against the dog holes without
like a Moxon vise.
Moxon vise, yeah. But even like a cheaper, like I have a regular cheap vise, and it's got one of those pop-up blocks, and I'm able to press wood together up against the dog hole. So that's something to consider.
Yes,
but I'm a fan of both, dude.
I agree.
I'm excited to see how you build it. And then Jake was also nice enough to write in a bonus question. He's like, hey, do you guys starving for questions? I was like, never. No, we're not that desperate. Please call in. So he sent in another one.
All right, guys. So it's Jake from A Sweet Shop with the bonus question of the week. I see a lot of other woodworkers out there using dial indicators and trying to do everything they can to get their saw set up dead on, or their blade set up dead on with the table. And one of the things I was thinking about was, as long as it's reasonably close, does it really matter? And the reason I'm bringing that up is me personally, I feel like human error, just running a board through the table saw, is going to create way more than a few thousandths of an inch as far as, your actual cut size. So just wanted to see what you guys thought, and see, if you guys are as particular about that as some others, or, if you're just kind of like, let's wing it and get it reasonably close and hope for the best.
Dan?
I'm of the belief that getting it reasonably close in woodworking is good enough. Like the great Jimmy DiResta has said, if it looks straight, it is straight. And you could take that a lot of ways. I do think it's important to get so like table saw. I think it's important to get your table saw blade and your arbor aligned perfectly with your fence for safety reasons. If your blade is cammed a little bit towards the fence or something like that, you're looking at a kickback opportunity. So there, I think you should really pay attention to that. But as far as squareness, I'm not looking to get, within 1 or 2 thousandths. Man, if it's close with my gauge, my square that I use, it's good enough for me. As long as I can see that it's square, I'm not busting out a dial indicator. I'm not doing the 5-cut method and using feeler gauges and all that stuff. Because like you said, one little tiny bit of human error will, negate all that work that you've done. One tiny bit of like dust buildup will negate that. So I'm of the belief that, you do it good enough, and as long as everything kind of has that same quote unquote misalignment, you're probably good. I mean, if it's within like 1/100th of an inch or 3/100ths of an inch or whatever it is, which one of those is bigger? 1/100th is smaller. Anyway, numbers are hard. I'm the math guy. Yeah, I think it's fine. No disrespect to guys that want to do that. If that's their thing and that makes them happy and it brings them joy, I say go for it. But I don't find it necessary. What about you, Pete?
I would say if it's good enough for government work, it's good enough for me. No, that's not actually what I say. But people joke around at government work is just get it good enough and then close out the ticket. But the reality is it's kind of both. There's certain things like if I'm trying to do some joinery, I'm trying to get those suckers tight, and I don't like to see daylight if I can avoid it.
Right.
But then there's times like the fact that we're even talking about this means we care more than the average bear, because like there's plenty of cutting boards I've seen or furniture I've seen or just projects that I've seen that like I look at it and I go, how did this ever leave the shop? Or I'll touch it and it's like rough. Like, was this even sanded?
We all do that. There's a certain restaurant that I go to with local guys here for lunch occasionally, and the first time we have it's called Dirty Birds. It's the greatest fried chicken on the planet. I'll prove you wrong. Anyway,
You're on.
their tables. Whenever we went there the first time, I always feel the underside of tables, especially if they're wood, and they weren't. Finished. They weren't sanded. Nothing on the bottom.
Nothing drives me more insane than
the top looks great,
bottom.
but I put my hands on the bottom and I noticed it was unfinished, and I was just like, oh man. And I was trying to like pimp my own business, and it was the first time we were there, and they were just recently opened, I think, and I was trying to talk to like the manager, and I was trying to get to the point where I was going to give him my card and say, hey, if you ever need anything else. But it turned out that like the manager's grandfather made these tables, and I was like, never mind.
The manager's blind grandfather.
I didn't want to like trash the guy's grandpa. Your grandpa's a shit woodworker. No. Anyway, I think we're a little off track.
Yeah. What was I saying? But yeah, no, I think there's certain things that, again, joinery, things that you want to try to match up perfectly. Or it's something that's going to be very visible, or you're almost like trying to prove a point. You want a nice tight joint on a miter, or you're doing like a X frame legs, like a half lap joint or some kind of more intricate joinery, and you really don't want to see daylight. A lot of this stuff you can fix in post, little glue, little sanding, and you're good. But sometimes you're just trying to get it perfect. And at the end of the day, like, wood moves.
Yep.
And there's a really good chance that you're gonna get that joint perfect, whatever, deliver, and then like see it like 3 months later, and it's gonna be a gap. It can happen. I mean, it will happen depending on where it is, or the opposite. There's times that things will like check or expand or something. We actually went with when I went with Keith, we were looking at like the desks, and he had tons of like stabilization that he had to do to these slabs because there were like little hairline cracks and spots, and he saw something from like across the room. I'm like, what? He's like, I stabilized the heck out of that. And he just like walked away. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I like touched it. And yeah, it was like ever so slightly raised where the epoxy was in there, because it like the wood expanded with humidity and just moved a little bit, and you could feel it. But like I wasn't even looking for it. So it's something that like we see if we care, but most people are never going to notice that kind of stuff. So basically, as far as dialing in your tools, you want to dial in your tools as best as you can. I think Dan hit it on a nose, though, on a head, whatever. It's very much for safety. Last thing you want is a blade binding, or polish up your cast iron, because there's nothing less safe than like trying to force a piece of wood through a cut, because it's getting caught up literally on the cast iron. You want it like butter. You want to be able to slide it through without any effort. I mean, I've heard of people like waxing their blades or their riving knife too, or waxing your fence, which I used to do. I haven't done in a long time. One of the things for me was like, I was just like forcing these boards through the joiner, taking light passes a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, what is happening? And then I realized the cast iron just completely was like rough to the touch. As soon as I buffed it, it was like butter. So I think maintenance is very important, but you don't always have to kill yourself for these perfect cuts.
I took Jake's comment and question as like, if let's say you're building a crosscut sled, how close to 90 do you get it? Do you break out the filler gauges and do the 5-cut method and do that whole hubbaloo, or do you just get it close enough? And I'm of the close enough camp, which is right next to the fat camp.
That's the fat camp. Heavyweights. So the one thing that stuck to me a couple of months ago, some other podcast, sounds like shop noise or whatever, something like that.
Shop noise, yeah.
Shop noise. It was Keith and Jason was they had like a patron thing where he actually was in the UK and was working on a project with one of their patrons. And
Oh yeah, I remember that.
he was working on a project and they were measuring to millimeters because the
UK.
Soviet UK, yeah, they're East, Europe, and they're measuring to millimeters, and Jason was like, I'm used to going to like the 32nd at least or something, and the guy was like, we go to millimeters here, we don't really do fractions, and that's kind of true. Like you don't need to go less than a millimeter, like a millimeter is what, like a 16th roughly, something like that. It's like you don't need to kill yourself. This stuff's gonna match up pretty nicely. One example I'll give you is where you don't need to really kill yourself. Let's say you're working on a tabletop and you're getting all your joints and everything looks tight, and then you're seeing a little bit of a gap. Run those boards through the joiner. Well, guess what? You might be putting pressure on the front or the back end of that joint. And when you put those boards together, oh great, perfect joint. But then if you measured, you might be like a 16th or eighth off from the front to the end of the table. So like it's okay. No one's gonna feel that unless it's like a major thing that is very visible. No one's really gonna notice. Don't kill yourself, and especially if you are having to deliver a lot of projects and a lot of products like you are, you're good enough is probably way better than 50% of the people out there for their top level work.
That's probably true.
It's probably true.
I've seen Jake's work. He does great work.
It's a good, solid work. Good question, though. Questions, plural. The last one is from a gentleman in France. And I think this is it. Oh, come on, kid. There we go.
Hello and welcome.
That is
Hello
not it.
and welcome.
That's not it.
That's sorry. It moved on me.
French.
Hey guys, I was wondering if and how do you integrate R&D into the price of your products? Like bit when you make a new sender holder, for example, you have to bring several prototypes, which might use a lot of filament and the cost add up in the end. And I guess it's the same for you, Dan, on the CNC, like for, I don't know, for example, a new zero clearance insert or whatever needs to be prototyped. Alright, bye guys.
I love this question.
How
so
much does R&D, research and development, go into the pricing of your products, Pete?
I love this question. Thomas, this is such a good question because I can finally explain to everyone that's pitched an idea to me in the last year why I haven't done it yet. And I'm literally looking at my to-do list, the thing we talked about earlier, the daunting to-do list. And there's literally things on here that have probably been on here for months to a year, like design rigid tool holders for Sailor C. And there's another thing was design or do some samples of maker coins for Jake. There was another one. There's like all these different things. And I put which maker I'm making them for, so I don't forget. Ed Mancini, special holder for the TSO, like literally a list of items that I need to design. And this is just some of like the probably 100 pitches that I've gotten in the last year. And the thing is, a lot of times people reach out to me with an idea for something that I could potentially sell, but it's really just like, it's for them. Like they're asking because they want it and it could potentially be useful and something I could sell. But a lot of times for me to sit down and design it, it's hours of work with 3D printing or even with woodworking. It's hours of labor to actually create the product. In this case, it's printer doing it, not me, but still I have to wait a couple hours each time before I can test the item and see that it doesn't fit and what I have to adjust and whatnot. So a lot of these projects just get put on a back burner for when, quote unquote, I have time, which is a joke we all tell each other. When I have time, I'll work on this thing. So the things that tend to get prioritized is things that I know that I can make money on almost immediately. And this goes back to my whole concept of like, I am trying to make money as efficiently as possible in my business, I could be making a lot more items, but a lot of these items would not be making me a lot of money back. And it's not worth for me to have 150 items that I sell a lot of 30 of them, and have all these little things that I need to hold some kind of inventory for, or hold a file for, always make sure I have stock of material for. So R&D is important. And there's times that people reach out to me and they just need something done. And if a customer or someone's pitching an idea and they need this thing, I'm charging them design time. And my design time is anywhere from $50 to $75 an hour. I've done more too, depending on what the job is, but about $50 to $75 an hour for the design. If I have to get into Fusion, model it, get it right, and then send it to them for approval, that is getting worked into the price. That being said, if it's something simpler, I kind of waive that and just kind of like, whatever, I can get away with it. But yeah, it's definitely getting worked into the price. But I get very excited about things like, you know what, this would be great. Like, I do want to make this. And that was like one of the things was the sander holders, because I wanted to hang up my Merca somewhere. I was like, you know what, I should design this, and they're actually been one of my best sellers in a long time. Or the backdrop stands that I design and 3D printed, those really sell really, really well, and I wasn't expecting them. I made them for myself for doing photography, and it's before of like products. So
let me ask you this.
Yeah, please.
Those things that you wanted to make that are doing well, has the research and development that you put into those, has that affected the price that you put on those pieces at all?
Not for the long. If it's something that's like hits the store and I sell a bunch within the first, let's say week or two, or a month, even within the first month, I consider that like well worth it. That is time invested, and it's going to keep, and it lives there now. I have the product and it sells. It's more of just like the one-offs. The one-offs is where really hurts, when somebody's having me design something from scratch. With woodworking, sometimes you have to charge for the material and prototype. And this is why we always talk about, you got to do 50% down. And like one thing, like Mike was never shy about charging for design time. And that's what we should be doing, because this stuff does, people think like, oh, just a quick or a simple blah, blah, blah. But like, no, you got to draw it up. You got to measure it. You got to figure out how the material is going to come together. That it's a solid hour to several hours to figure out a project. Like Dan's put hours of just design time in his head or on paper into the table, like the table he's working on. Because he's got to figure out the leaf, he's got to figure out the joinery, he's got to figure out how everything's going to come together, what kind of hardware he's using, how he's delivering it. Like all that is time that he, if he wasn't charging for that in the price, he's
right,
potentially losing out on money. But Dan, what's your input on that?
Well, I'm coming at this from like, I feel like Thomas is asking, about the pieces that we sell a lot of in bulk. Like, I'm not the one-off pieces. So I assume he's wanting to know about research and development for things like, I sell a lot of the zero clearance inserts and stuff. And those have taken time out of my life to make sure that they're correct. But I don't feel like the amount of time I spend on them, which may be an hour or 2, 3 hours, maybe 4 hours, who knows? But it's hours, is enough to justify putting that into the price of that item once that I list it and try to sell it in bulk.
That's a good point. I think making stuff that you're going to sell, it's a sunk cost.
Right. I'm just the guy in his garage. If I was a big conglomerate, spending hours and hours and hundreds of hours on research, and I had a whole team of people, I'd want to recoup that money somehow. But it's just me in my garage taking measurements on things and, spending a couple hours here and there on it. So I don't let that stuff affect my prices at all.
But if you had a client come at you with an idea,
but a one-off thing, like you're talking about, I'm absolutely going to charge for my time. I mean, that's just the way the world works. But as far as my products go, no, I don't let research and development have any bearing on my prices at all.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Dan summed it up a lot better than I did, which is basically like, for these things that we sell all the time, it's a sunk cost. It's cost
Yeah.
of doing business. You have to do it to continue doing what you're doing, and it pays for itself in the long run. It's
It
an investment.
absolutely
It's an
should.
investment of time. Whereas if you're doing it for a client, that's part of the job.
Right.
Because you're not gonna, unless it's something that like you can, like there's things that I've not charged design time for things for people, like the clamp thing for the festival clamps, the little green thing that goes on the back of it that hold it in place. That was an idea by Sedge. I probably sent him like 40 of those things at this point. Like that was a Sedge idea, and like he just pitched it, and I was like, it's kind of good work because I get the problem. And like there's times that someone's pitched me an idea, and not only did I not charge them for the time, I sent them the free thing because it was something that was really smart, and I got money, and like I made money on it.
I understand where Tomas coming from here. But yeah, I mean, think about this like a big pharma company. They spend millions and millions of dollars on research and development of like a pill
like
that
a little
helps.
blue pill.
A little blue pill. Yes. Obviously they're going to want to recoup that money. And then they have like, what do they have? Like they got 20 years of patent rights, or maybe it's 25, to help them recoup their money. And they're, they have an upcharge on their product. And then after that 25 years, everybody on the planet can make generics of that and charge way less because that company already did the research and development. But we're not that type of company. We're just small little blips on the map. I mean, we're not even blips, small little specks of dust, so like
we are is dust.
our research and development is like, we're talking like maybe $100, maybe $200 on a product. That's you're just going to eat the cost of that, in my opinion.
Yeah. But, think of other companies that started out as kind of like a guy figuring it out. Like Onefinity was just a dude.
I'm sure as you grow as a company, you're going to want to look at things like that. And as you grow, everything grows, not just your product line, but your teams and everything else. So yeah, that's probably something you got to look at as you grow as a company.
Yeah. So good question though. Yeah. This
very good question.
Prototyping it's hard because there's so many ideas out there you want to put into place, but it's all time. Time is the biggest thing.
It could be fun, if you got time for it. I enjoy it when I do have time for it.
When you talked about like burnout and stuff, like I'm currently on design burnout.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't talk about burnout. We just talked about no motivation. I have no motivation for designs right now. And I feel really bad because there's stuff that I really, really want to do and get done. I'm just not feeling it right now.
Yeah.
I'm focused. My brain's in a different place and I'm trying to get more focused right now. But
I think my problem is like, I want to be doing all these other creative things, but I need to be doing these monotonous things that aren't that fun. And I'm having an internal struggle with like, you have to do this, but if you do the other thing, you're going to feel bad because you're not doing the thing you're supposed to be doing. So like, I don't know what to do. So I just don't do anything, which is probably bad. No, let me rephrase that. It's bad. It's bad.
No, dude,
don't do that.
Get it. Well, that's why it's so important to schedule some time for yourself to just like have fun or work on stuff you want to work on over stuff you need to work on. Like right now, Carmine's van is my escape from reality. Like working on that, I'm really enjoying it. And it's not even for me. But it's something that
does look fun. It's something I've always wanted to do.
I think it's just cool and it makes me feel really happy. And the way his face lights up when he sees like progress on the build, it just like makes me feel good. And it's something different that I like, like it's gotta work around curves and do like funky stuff with it. And I gotta figure out solutions. It's like more fun than like sitting there in front of a CAD program and trying to design something right now. So I'm enjoying my little escape from reality.
Amen.
Yeah.
And women. We're inclusive here.
Amen. A women. Wow. That is the most equal opportunity thing Dan's ever said.
Anyway, do we have any other questions?
No, that's kind of it for questions.
Wow.
Yeah,
not too bad.
Listen, there's a 1/3 less conversation. We're still heading an hour, so that's pretty good.
I think we're doing all right.
We're doing all right.
We're doing good.
Doing good.
Yeah, like we talked about in the top of the show, if you want to help us get our intro back in line and you have a velvety voice, or you want to be heard on the radio and you want to tell your mom and dad that you're famous, send us a new intro in your voice. You don't have to say the same words that we had before. You can come up with something else. We just kind of want you to hit all the points. You can find all our social medias on all the social medias. See, I'm not good at this either.
Is there names?
Yes, there we go. Names, the podcast name, and where you can find us. I mean,
Just
that's
a quick
basically
ASL in there, age, sex, location, and where we're at.
That brings me back. Anyway, what else, Pete?
Nothing. And we're gonna have some guests coming up. We're currently in the process of scheduling. We wanted to do a couple episodes just solo to get in the groove of things.
I think we're doing well. I think we're in a good groove.
Some kind of groove.
Is this? I think one could argue this is more of a dado.
I was thinking more of a rabbit.
Oh, rebate?
No, rabbit.
Oh, isn't that what they call it over across the pond? A rebate?
A rebate plane?
A rebate?
You use a rebate plane?
Yeah, they don't call it a rebate over there. I thought they call it a rebate, not a rabbit. No,
11% rebate.
This is getting off the T track.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, you like that?
Off the T track.
Hey,
there you go.
there's
thanks.
a show title.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. We will see you all next week. Next
big
week.
Thank you to our patrons as always.
Yes, and next week we were 100% be on Thursday unless something changes. Dan, let me know about.
I'm
Thursday.
like 97% sure we're going to be Thursday.
97% sure that he's going to be here on Thursday. So we'll see. If not, it'll just be a one-man show. Kidding. I can't do this by myself.
I'd like to see you try.
I'm not even going to attempt.
We may or may not have a guest next week.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Tune in to find out.
Okay, love y'all. Bye.
All right. See you next week. Love you long time.